Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name's Daniel Marsh, and I'm a Business Development Manager here at Zyzor UK. Some of you may have already spoken to me or have been on some of my previous webinars. So today what we're going to be looking at is the interface of Nebula, going through some of the sort of settings, some of the sort of nice features. I want to try and keep it as interactive as possible. So if you've got any questions, there is a questions and chat box located on your screen. Feel free to post any questions on there. And there will also be a section at the end as well where I can cover off any of the questions that I haven't covered off during the live demo. So thanks again for joining us today. So Nebula obviously is our cloud management platform for our gateways, access points, and switches. So to be able to get to it, if you go to nebula.zyzor.com, and then you'll be presented with a login screen. Now we do have an experience, a live demonstration, which is what I'm going to be covering today. So you can actually log in and do exactly what I'm doing. You can navigate around it, have a look at the interface, have a look at some of the features available to you. All the login details are actually on the login page when you go to the Nebula website. So typically speaking, when you log in, you're presented with this screen here, which is the sort of site overview. So we're sort of going to step back a little bit because it's sort of three-tier management. So you've got an MSP stage, then you've got an organization stage, and then you've got a site-wide stage. So if we go to the Msp Portal, this will give you a brief overview of all your organizations. It will show you the amount of devices you've got within the organizations, the type of license it is, and whether or not it's expired or whether or not it's still valid, as well as providing you sort of the expiration date. So from an MSP point of view, it's really good to provide you that visibility of all your organizations that you have that you're providing services for. And on a daily basis, you can jump in and see if potentially there are some issues or some devices offline that you need to address. So again, being able to proactively look at your organizations and the status of all their equipment. One of the important factors is obviously licensing. So from an organization point of view, I mean, at the moment, because I only have one organization, I can't do this, but it allows you to transfer any licenses from one organization to another. So I often get asked the question that if I have an organization and say, for instance, we're no longer supporting them, they've gone with somebody else, how do we separate this? So what you would do is you'll go and create a new organization, and then what you would then look at doing is transferring the license over from the old organization to the new organization, and then looking to transfer the devices over and then basically relieving your control over it. Obviously, hopefully that wouldn't happen because in this instance, the customers would want to stay with you, but there are situations where potentially customers do want to look at either taking control over it themselves or moving on to a different provider. One thing we've also got in here is being able to actually brand the actual organizations as well. So it allows you to upload a logo and apply this to a specific organization, as well as also specifying some bespoke information on the support side of things as well. So Nebula has a support feature built into it so that you can raise support tickets, you can track the progress of it, and also provide the Nebula support team direct access to your organization just to speed up the process in case you have got some features that potentially aren't working or you need some guidance on how to set it up or you're experiencing some issues. So you can actually sort of white label this so that if the end users do have access to it, like quite a lot of the times IT managers at a particular end user will be provided a certain level of access. So it allows them to know exactly what the procedure is from your point of view from a support aspect. So to be able to get to that, you go to help and then support request. When you go onto there, it'll show you all the information as well as any open tickets. And if we get a chance, I'll go over that as well today. So if we move down, so this is, as I said, this is the MSP tier. If we move down to the organization wide and overview, so this will give you an overview of all the sites which are within your organization. So because you've got an organization, and an organization can consist of many sites. So this allows you to drill down and specifically see if any devices are offline on the specific site, and obviously what the site health is as well. So it provides you a little graph here to tell you that potentially it was online and offline at a certain point. If you put in all the addresses and everything geographically, it will actually pinpoint them on the map as well. So it's quite visually rich, so you can actually have a look at physically where they are. And then if you go to the devices as well, this is quite handy because it provides you a decent list of all the devices that you've got, the configuration status, as well as the usage as well on that. And for traceability, the serial number as well can also be quite handy. And as you can see here, it will tell you per device whether or not there's been specific issues. So I mean, these could be cable faults, they could have been switched off or whatever, but it shows you that, and it allows you to drill into exactly the sort of times as you hover over it. So you'll see it says online, and it'll say it's offline and gives you a timestamp between it. So it's really handy just for a quick overview of your individual sites to see exactly what it is. You can also export this as well and provide this information and use Excel for reporting or something like that as well. So the way everything works is the monitoring side of things down all the sections down the left-hand side. So you've got your Msp Portal, your organization, your site-wide, they're your 3 tiers. And then you've got your actual type of device, so your security gateways, your switches, and your access points. On each of the menus, there's a monitor section at the top and a configure section down below. So this allows you to obviously quickly get to it. So if you go to site-wide, again, monitoring at the top, configuration, and when you get to the switches as well, access points or the gateways, exactly the same sort of format. So we've got a lot of consistency in there to make sure that you know where all the tools are readily available for you. So I'm not going to go too much into detail into every single settings and changes because it would be a good few hours, but I just want to highlight some of the beneficial areas. One of which is being an inventory. So being able to see a list of all the devices that you have within Nebula. So this is MAC address and serial number, which is vitally important, especially for diagnostic purposes or even RMA purposes. So if you've got a faulty device and you need to replace it, it'll provide you the site it's connected to, as well as the model. And from this point here, you can have the ability to unregister them as well, or even add a device at this stage. And again, being able to export this is quite crucial to make sure that you know exactly what equipment you've got out there, so that you can better manage it. So we've got the license management side of things. So this is quite handy because this allows you to calculate exactly what licenses you need to provide you with an expiration date. So it is a co-terminated license. So if you buy a license for one device but not another, that license will actually get spread between both devices. Now this can sometimes cause a bit of confusion because you don't realize that until it's been done. So any questions in any way, shape or form with the licensing, feel free to contact myself, my colleague Nigel, or anyone in the sales team, and they'll be able to assist you. You'll see it'll give you a sort of change log as well as to what you've added, what's been activated and put on at whatever sort of times. So that's for both the Nebula Control Center licensing. So this is for the Pro Pack features for all of your devices. So this will be your access point switches and gateways, and it'll provide you the enhanced sort of monitoring, so 365 days monitoring and log retention. It provides you the visual topology that I'll show you in a few minutes, which is a very, very good tool, as well as a few other nice features, advanced VPN features and things like that. Now we can provide a full matrix of what the professional pack does give you over the free version. And as I say, it is quite good as well because of the fact that you can go for a perpetual lifetime license as well. So if you apply a lifetime license to a full site, then it won't give you any expiry date. And say 5 years down the line, you want to upgrade from wireless AC, for instance, and go to the next generation of our AX access points, which are now fully supported in Nebula. You will actually find that you can actually upgrade them like for like swap. So 10 access points out, 10 access points in, which have already been licensed for lifetime. You will find that you still don't have an expiry date. So 5 years down the line, that perpetual license will still allow you to use all the features with the newer devices we are adding. The other type of license that you get is for the Nebula security services. So these are for the specifically at the moment the NSGs, because that is our only gateway available. However, we do now have a USG Flex available, which will be joining the Nebula portfolio probably beginning of sort of next year. We're still yet to have a full formalized date on that. So the license for this will be for antivirus, content filtering, and IDP. So these are what you would usually see on your usual USG and your bundled licenses. This is what the security service license is all about. And again, you can pretty much go there and sort of go to buy it. You can calculate what expiry date you want, and because it knows how many devices you've got, it will automatically calculate exactly what you need to purchase. You can then go through to distribution and place the order directly with them. So that's sort of covered off the licensing side of things. One thing I am going to touch on, I mean, administrators, it's self-explanatory. You can add multiple administrators to it. By default, you can only have 5 with the free version, but you can have unlimited with the sort of with the Pro Pack. So that's key, is if you're offering an MSP service for your customer, but you want to be able to alleviate and provide them some level of access, maybe to change wireless passwords, to change SSIDs and things like that, then you can provide them that level of access. And in the logs, if they do make any changes, you can be alerted of that, and it will also tell you what they've actually changed and who has actually changed it as well. So if there are any problems and they're trying to point the finger at you, you can obviously drill down into the event logs and say, no, Joe Bloggs did this on this day, and this is what he changed. I've reverted it back, and it should all now be working now. So again, change logs quite important, and adding the correct administrators is also important. What I want to show you is cloud authentication. Now, we've recently implemented a couple of new features into the cloud authentication that are really good for the wireless aspect of things. So if you go to a user, for instance, you will see here that you can have a VLAN assignment stipulated. Now this is quite good because it uses the 802.1x authentication protocol within the wireless. And basically, rather than a user, when they connect to the wireless, just being asked for a password, they'll be asked for both a username and a password. When they put that information in, the system will actually put a VLAN tag in onto that user, regardless of what SSID they're connecting to. So let me use it in a real world example. If we had a multi-tenant building, so one physical premise, but could be 10 companies in it. Each one of them companies can have their own user with their own VLAN assignment, all different. And then you have one SSID broadcasted throughout the entire building, and it doesn't matter where they are, as long as they connect with their username and their password, they will then be dropped onto the correct VLAN. Therefore, they will be able to only broadcast one SSID, which reduces wireless congestion and also makes it a lot easier to manage as well. So that is a really, really good feature. And moving on from that, a similar sort of feature is what's called dynamic personal pre-shared key. This is something we get asked for quite a lot of, especially in sort of the hospitality sort of environment or cafes and things like that. So what this allows you to do, if any of you are familiar with our sort of hospitality section of our USG, where you can provide like a ticket printer, you can print out a physical ticket, give it to somebody with a username and password on, take payment for the internet. It's a similar sort of method, except you don't have a physical ticket printer. You create all these dynamic users, which will all have a different password. When they log on, you can stipulate if they want to go into a different VLAN or not. And what you can do is as well, you can actually print this out and it will print all the username and passwords onto a A4 page of however many you've created. And then it'll allow you to actually cut them out and provide them to customers. So this is becoming quite readily used in the area, because a lot of people are either looking to take payment for wireless or and offering that sort of level of service. And for traceability, to know what they're doing, for content filtering purposes, you can provide content filtering per user as well. So it really allows that extra bit of control on there. So yeah, as I say, that's recently been added. Anything that you see with a little star symbol indicates that it is a Pro Pack feature. So you will either need an annual subscription or the lifetime license, in which case then that will be available to you. So another thing that I want to cover on here are the configuration templates. So one thing that is important is with Nebula anyway, is making deployment as easy as possible and making any changes to any of the sites easy moving forwards as well. So what you can do is you can actually create a template. Now this template you can bind to a particular site. So say for instance you create well, not so a head office, but say a branch office. This branch office you can bind to this template, and any changes you make to that, it will make it to any other sites which are also bound to that template. So if you've got one HQ and 20 remote offices, all the remote offices are actually configured exactly the same in terms of SSID, passwords, switch configuration, etc. Then you can actually bind all of the sites to a template, and then you can change one site and it'll change it across the board, meaning that you can actually roll out changes to 20 sites within a click of a button. So it's a very, very useful feature. I see a lot of people using it quite a lot of the time. So I would advise you just to play about with it if you've already got access to Nebula, and see what you think about it, and see if it does make your lives easier. Because trying to reduce the amount of time that you spend implementing changes is better time spent making money. So we'll move on from the organization. As I say, it's quite self-explanatory with what's in there. So we're going to sort of go down to the site-wide. So as I showed you at the beginning, the site-wide overview will show you a list of, will show you the status of your access points, your switches and your gateways, if you've got them. It will show you your current PoE draw, so you know if you're starting to run out of PoE budget and you need to look at potentially getting another switch. It'll show you your WAN details, and it'll also show you like sort of layer 7 application data as well. So being able to see what people use, so you can see they're using iTunes, Facebook, iCloud, Dropbox, etc. And then it also shows you what the clients are on a 24-hour basis in terms of usage, SSIDs by usage, etc. Now these are quite dynamic in what you can do with them, because you can actually move them about. So if you click at the top here, customize, you have the ability to reset it back to default, so you can move them about to make them more visually rich for you. And then you can also choose what you actually want to show. So if it's too much for you, you just untick these, and as you can see, they then disappear. So again, being able to give you that information that you actually need, and not bombarding with the information that you don't need. So what you can do on a site as well is you can actually implement floor plans. So you can actually upload a floor plan and physically pinpoint the switches, the access points, the gateways on a physical floor plan. So if you've got, say, a junior engineer going out on site who's never been to the site before, you're sat at your desk or maybe in your home office, and you're actually guiding him around the building, saying, right, if you go down that corridor, at the end of the corridor, there's going to be an access point. In addition to that, on each of the devices, you can actually upload a picture as well. So you can actually upload a physical picture as to where it is. Now, the topology is probably one of the most important things that I see, and it really does help diagnostics. So when you're using a bunch of Zysel Nebula devices, it will map them out and it will show them what they're plugged into, what the status of them are. And if, say, for instance, the access point is showing as offline, you can actually click on it. It'll show you it's either been online or offline. But more importantly, it will tell you what the remote port it's connected into. So you can see this is now connected into a GS1920 8HP switch, and it's plugged into port 3. So you know where to start your diagnostics. You'll then go into the switch, you'll start diagnosing it from that point. There are a bunch of live tools available. So you've got ping, trace routes, you've got a cable diagnostic on the switches. So it will actually run a cable diagnostic and tell you how long the cable is and whether or not there's any faults on it. Or if there is a fault, it'll tell you how far from the switch that fault is. So you can quite easily identify a cable fault and then look at either going out and replacing that or getting a contractor out to do that on your behalf. So, I mean, you've got your general settings, being able to add a device, firmware management we'll cover in a second. First off, I want to go to the alert settings. So the alert settings can send an email to all administrators as well as some customized email addresses as well. And what it will allow you to do is receive messages if an access point goes off in that particular time range. You can either get them via email or using the Nebula app, it will send you a push notification. You can also get alerted if the switch goes offline or if any switch port goes offline. And Dhcp Gateway, one of my favorite ones is when the Dhcp lease pool is exhausted. Quite a common issue for networks that haven't been scoped out correctly for the amount of people that's in there. Quite easily, the Dhcp lease can be exhausted, and people are wondering why they're not getting any internet connection. This will easily help you identify that. And also a very important one is being able to be alerted when a VPN connection is established or disconnected as well. So making sure that obviously the VPNs are being utilized and being utilized for the bulk of their working time as such. So management of the devices in terms of firmware is also important. Making sure your devices are fully up to date with the latest firmware is crucial from a security aspect and from a fundamental aspect as well. So making sure that any bugs that have been discovered have been fixed, any enhancements have been placed into there, so more features. And with the Pro Pack, you have the ability to schedule the upgrade, so you can schedule access points to go on a certain day, security gateways to get upgraded on another day, and the switches to get upgraded on a different day. You have the ability to upgrade them now, you can upgrade them all, or you can upgrade one of them, and it just gives you that availability to know exactly what the status of your firmwares are for all your individual devices. Cloud authentication is just going back to what I showed you, where you can set up the dynamic users. So on the security gateway, if you go to the monitor side of things, it'll actually show you all the information of your gateway that you've got. So your name, MAC address, physical description. You'll see here it's been physically located on a map as well, so you know exactly where it is. You can see the status for all the ports, DHCP, the CPU usage and memory usage. So if you're starting to run into issues, you can diagnose that. And again, your live tools you've got, so you can test your internet traffic to see exactly what it's transferring, your DHCP leases, pings, traceroute, DNS, etc. And the ability to reboot the gateway. We always tell the end user to reboot the gateway, so it's good having the ability to do that from here as well. So the network uses and connectivity, you have the ability to go back 30 days. So this is recursive, so you can actually go back 7 days and then look 30 days previous. If you're on the Pro Pack, obviously you can do 365 days data on that one, so you can just step it back, see where it is, and then analyze it further. This one at the bottom is quite good because it allows you to narrow down further into the time, so you can actually restrict it and go, right, I was having an issue around this sort of time, what was going on? So again, very, very handy tools there. Security gateway, so on the clients, so being able to see what clients are connected, what the usage are, what their IP addresses are, the download limits, and the host names as well. So you can have a look at these and exactly see who's using your gateway. I'm going to go into the Nss Analysis Report and let's see if they've got any traffic generated. So what you can see here is a report on application for the last 24 hours. And again, you can go back to a maximum of 365 days on the Pro Pack or 7 days rolling with the free version. This will just allow you to see exactly what's been used over a given period. So if you are experiencing issues, you can actually say, right, what was being used at that certain time, or what are my employees or what my employees ultimately using the internet for during working hours. So you can sort of navigate around this and sort of put in procedures if need be. So you've got the content filtering, and remember, this is only for the Nss analysis. So if you haven't got the security services, this won't be available to you because these level of features are part of that licensing. So this allows you to drill down on them specific features. So antivirus, obviously showing if you've had any hits, and any intrusion detection prevention. So if anyone's been tried sort of getting into your network. So we'll sort of move down to the sort of switching element of it. So if we click on the switches, this is quite handy as well because it allows you to look at all the switches you've got on a site with the actual status of it, what the IP addresses are, the connectivity, the bandwidth utilization as well, and the serial numbers. So I do apologize, my internet has been running a little bit slow, so I've had to prioritize my webinar over my web traffic. And again, clients is also available on the actual switch, and as you can see, it'll show you all the devices which are physically plugged into the switch, what switch they're connected to, and when they was last seen. And if they support LLDP as well, it can retrieve that information as well. One thing that has recently been added into our portfolio is the surveillance switches. I haven't got one on this particular site at the moment, but I will show you one that I do have at my house where it does actually provide you some extra features within inside the actual switch configuration. So some of the key features for our CCTV switch, if you're not already aware, is an extended range of up to 250 meters PoE, so meaning that you don't have to introduce another switch to power a camera. Then you've got the ability to do auto PD recovery as well. So if the device physically stops transmitting network traffic, then the device will, the switch will automatically power down the device based on your specifications, and then it'll bring it back up again. So meaning that you don't have to physically ask someone to reboot it or log on to the switch manually. So with the access points, again, same sort of remit. You've got the access point that you can have a look at the status of. It'll show you all the information such as the name, the model, the IP address, how many clients are currently connected to it, the MAC address, and also what channel as well, and whether or not DCS is enabled on it, as well as the usage and a percentage of that. And as you can see, you've got quite a few additional options over here as well. So if you go down to the clients, again, it'll show you the clients, their signal level, as well as the MAC address and everything that's on there, and the RX and the TX rate. So if people are suffering, you can see this guy has only got TX of 6 and an RX of 65, so he's going to be suffering some form of issues, which is strange based on his signal level. So requires further diagnostics on that to understand whether or not he's actually suffering any issues. Right, so I'll probably leave that for a quick overview as to what features you've got. As I say, I could be here all day and show you them all. I'm more than happy to do a live demonstration directly with you and go through every single feature that we've got if you do feel it can fit into your verticals. And yeah, all you got to do is just ping me an email and we'll go from there. So what I am going to look at doing is, before we obviously go to the question section, I do want to just touch on the GS1350 switches and the additional features you've got. So just bear with me a few seconds. Right, I'll tell you what, while this is loading, there are a few questions that have been pumped through, so let me just have a look at these. So why is there an export of your own inventory when we already paid Zyzel for the hardware a pro feature? So Damien, the export's there obviously so that you can keep a track of what you've got within Nebula. Obviously, we've got an inventory within the My Zyzel, but it is just an ability, especially even for the end users, to be able to export that information just to see exactly what they've got on site. So it's just a handy feature for them to have. Andrew, in regards to the latest feature matrix for the Pro versus the non-Pro, I'll send you a link for that. We do have one which gets regularly updated on the internet as well, so I'll sort of link out for you that today and get that sent across to you. So if you buy direct, so Damien's come back, if you buy direct licenses, how does this fit with a DISI discount, etc.? So at the moment, I believe there's no discount applied to the licenses. So I would always recommend that you look at going through distribution for licenses. That's where you're going to get the best sort of service and the best sort of discount rates. However, if you are in a sticky situation where you need a license quickly and easily, then you can always do it online and sort of move on. So if it's, say, for instance, in the evenings or something like that, with distribution might not be open. And also, Damien, in regards to the API access to Nebula, the API integration has been already included within Nebula. We'll have to probably send me an email, Damien. You've got my details, and we'll sit down and we'll go through exactly what can be done with the API and get a bit more information in regards to that. So just turning your attention back to the switches. So as I said, this is my house, and I've got a surveillance switch currently running my CCTV at home. It works really well, actually. I've got the little 6 HP, and surprisingly enough, it's got a BT port, so we can actually power the more like the 60 watt sort of cameras, you know, for the PTZ and or the more advanced features. So if I go into the switch, obviously it gives you all your information, shows you exactly what's sort of plugged into it. Now, if I go to configure the ports, because this is where most of the features have been added. So for this particular one, if I go down and go into the port, you'll see now at the bottom, we've got the auto PD recovery, what the detection mode is. So whether or not it's LLDP, and if the device isn't in the LLDP table anymore, it will then reboot it, or you can do just a generic ping. This will actually work for all devices, so if it doesn't reply to a ping, then it will reboot it. It will reboot. You can set it to reboot it so many times. You can also specify that it will actually power down for so many seconds before introducing power back to it. And the reason for that is that when you do power cycle devices, they sometimes hold some electrical charge in it. So powering off for a longer period of time will actually help, because it might not boot up in the right sort of standard. And then, as I say, being able to specify an extended range. Now, extended range is very important to understand because you can only run it over a 10 meg modulation at full duplex. So, for instance, I would never use it for an access point because that access point will only be restricted to 10 meg regardless of the amount of clients you've got on it. But for a camera running on high definition, it will be absolutely fine. And it just means that you can get up to 250 meters. I think about 98% of cameras we've tested work at about 200 meters, and then there are some which work at the 250 meters. But it's all based on the actual camera manufacturer, and specifically PoE ones, not the ones not with the pigtails. It will not work with the pigtail type PoE cameras. So as I say, the 1350 management switch within Nebula is now there and now available, and as I say, it's got some really good features which will definitely help any CCTV installations in the future. So that really concludes of the of Nebula, some of the new features available, and the general interface of things. So I'm just going to turn my head back to the questions and see if we have any more. So Stuart, do we have a comparison chart between the Pro and the free matrix? We do. I'll get that across to you in no time. That's not a problem. Damien, you've come back going, if we're registered as an MSP, which I understand that you're already joining that journey with us, why can't the discount be directly purchased done? So there's a lot of work going on in the background to be able to provide this, something that will probably be available in the coming months. At the moment, we've only given the ability to be able to purchase licensing because that is the need and requirement. When it comes to the discount levels and things like that, because every country is different and it's an overall change, it is very complex in what needs to be done to get it working correctly. Because the last thing we want to do is roll out a change and then it actually hinder the experience. So we've sort of staggering it. So we've staggered it by providing you to be able to buy the licenses, obviously excluding the discount, and then we can look further into it and enhancing it, bringing it more in line with the Msp Portal. Obviously, all our devices that are now coming out are going to be sort of Nebula focused to a certain degree. There are certain ones that may not be. So again, this platform is sort of changing the way Zeiss will do things in terms of licensing, in terms of management, and in terms of what we offer you as a customer. So that sort of concludes all the questions that I've had so far, but feel free to put any ones across. One thing I do want to touch on, as Damien said, about registering an MSP partner. So we are currently running a quite a nice campaign for you guys in the UK, which is specifically about being able to tailor your business more to a managed service providers, because we know that by changing your business model or using this level of business model in cooperation with your business, you can actually increase your margin levels, make the user experience much more seamless, and offer that extra bit of assistance. So some of the benefits and advantages that Zeiss are actually doing to be able to get people on board and so that you benefit from it more than anything is being able to provide an upfront discount on Nebula license of 25%. So you'll obviously know if you're already a ZAP partner, you've got your Ally Silver and Gold discounts already set for any of our products on the SMB side of things. However, if you're an MSP specialist, for SMB and cloud products, you'll get 9% discount. So even if you're an Ally at the moment, if you join us on this journey to be an MSP, you'll actually benefit from 9% of being a gold partner, as well as the fact that you get priority access to our pre-sales and post-sales support. So that's like the likes of me and Nigel Canning, who is a sales engineer. And also, if you attend any technical training, then you will get a free Nebula product. Obviously, with the current situation around the globe, on-site training has been a bit difficult, but we are going to be looking at launching online technical training as well. One of the things that you will get is if you start joining us on this MSP journey is you will actually receive a free voucher for Nebula, meaning that you can get ZCNE certified on level 1 of Nebula for free just by attending our webinar, by filling in a survey and engaging with us and helping have a look at the MSP and how we can benefit your business moving forward. So I've had a couple of questions come in. So Keith said he's just purchased a Flex 500 on the strength of Nebula. It will be require replacement units, or will there be an upgrade path? So I need to get the finer details on this because obviously the Flex has been introduced as a standalone unit at the minute with the knowledge it is going into Nebula. So I'm looking towards speaking with HQ to see if they are going to provide some form of migration plan so that any configuration that you've done in the Nebula Flex in the meantime can easily be imported into Nebula and then onboarded so that you're not having to sort of reinvent the wheel as such. But that is something I'm in discussion with at the moment. So just bear with us, Keith, because once it gets put into Nebula, even if there's not a tool available there for you, if you speak to the likes of myself or Nigel, then we'll be able to help you provide you the configuration into Nebula to make the migration much more seamless. So Elliot's come back and asked, is it possible to see the traffic breakdown between a device and a cloud service? So when you say between a device and the cloud service, I think we'll need to expand on that a little bit more, Elliot, but I'll give you a shout after this and we'll go into it in a little bit more detail. So I understand that it was that level of grant reporting was available on the USG and the order style reporting, which is a secure reporter. If the reporting within Nebula isn't as comprehensive as the secure reporter, but I'm thinking that moving forward, that is something that we're going to be able to implement, potentially even integrate secure reporter into the Nebula platform as more of an external reporting tool available for Nebula. Again, these are conversations that I'm having as to how Nebula is going to evolve over the future. So that seems to SSL VPN, definitely, I don't know if it's going to be an SSL VPN or an open style VPN, but it is definitely something that is in discussion, something that gets raised on a weekly basis, not only with myself, but with the HQ and the Nebula research R&D department as well. So it is definitely something that is on their radar. I'm just waiting to see what they're looking to do. I'm hoping that they're going to look at implementing it around the same sort of time the Nebula Flex joins it. Whether it be SSL VPN or an open VPN sort of style, it's still yet to be determined. So yeah, I mean, that seems to have concluded all the questions. I mean, feel free to send any more across if you've got any. However, I have said that I am always available. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. Obviously, my email address is daniel.marsh@zeisel.co.uk, so quite easy to remember if you can remember my name. And I'd just like to thank you all for joining me today. Thank you again for all the questions. It's been a very engaging session, which is what I like. So everybody have a good rest of your day. And if I don't speak to you any beforehand, have a very good weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.